If I can keep my nose from running long enough from my spring cold, I have a story for you. Now, Billy Ray Brandt will probably never see this, but Billy Ray, I just want you to come up to put some thought to this, and part of this is an age difference. There's no doubt. She has some pretty good dating advice, guys, that you might want to listen to and follow. And you women out there especially. The last thing we need is a pile more of you stinking narcissists out there on either side. But it seems like on the women's side, it is more evil than you can imagine sometimes. It makes you cringe how bad it can be. But anyway, one of the things I just got through the live on Facebook about was a story about Debbie and I being married back in 2002, April 27th, on her birthday. We started out on October 15th when I made a phone call with a cute little piece of sarcasm at the end. If this is not the person to whom I have called, please press 1 and hang up. And hung up. It was intriguing enough, and strangely enough, our two Christian heritages collided. Hers wasn't very long, and mine is relatively extensive and just gone through a bad divorce, partially because I wouldn't kowtow to someone's idea of godhood. It's literally what it came out to be. Severe narcissistic personality disorder. But my idea here is to throw along, guys, you want to marry a woman? Really? I got an idea for you, and this is one of the places that might be an age difference as much as a disagreement in style. Billy Ray had one that don't be your friend, you're going to be her romantic love interest. Why not both? Seriously. Understandably, it changes because we were both 41 at the time when we started. Married, Debbie was 42. 5 days later, I was too. So our age difference just disappears out the window. And our roots of where we grew up and how we grew up, the school we went to high school together years before. And then we contact again, many years later. No, it wasn't by accident. I was ordered by God, believe it or not. There's no other way to put it. As crazy as it sounds. And when I made the phone call, it was the exact day. She said, if you'd have called maybe a couple hours before, a couple hours after, I wasn't going to pick it up, maybe. But she said, if you called a day before, a day after, I wouldn't have bothered to call you back, or even I'd just erased you. She says, that was the time. Why? Because she just told the Lord that I haven't heard from you. Going back to my old life. I don't know what to do. Hello? But after that, what we did was we started a friendship because we wanted to know if we could pick it back up again. Well, our original conversation on the 15th, with 2 hours of me trying to find out about her past and 3 hours of her not wanting to hang up once we started, which I was enjoying as much as her, but I had to go to work the next day. And a little Chinese restaurant that we went to, and a year afterwards, we walk into the same one near our anniversary, and the woman says, oh, I know you too. You married now? I see it. You married now. Oh, love, 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 love. I take you to table over here. Oh, goody, goody, goody. She picked us right out. You know what's funny? That restaurant was gone, taken over by somebody else just a short time after that. She was only running that restaurant in that time period. Shortly before we ever talked on the phone, and shortly after we did our second visit there. Gone. But the idea in between was that we'd gone on trips together. I helped her work on the house together. I repaired her lawnmower. We did some other stuff. We made dinner together, jokes and comments, and we spent a lot of time together. Went to visit her mother and her brother and his family. We went around and we didn't make any pretenses about anything else, just visiting people. And it got to the point where at work, it says, you guys are getting along awful good. Who is this guy? How is this guy? And she started telling the story of it, including the phone call and her life prior, and talking about the Lord and how she'd asked him to change. And this guy shows up. The timing. The perfection and timing for both of us. It's impossible otherwise. And then the friendship that we rebuilt. Well, we were friends in high school enough so that when she was telling about her second brother being born, who was younger than her by 15 years, something like that, 14, 15, 16, somewhere in there. And I said, well, congratulations, you got a brother coming. And she says, oh, yeah, great. I got a brother coming, and I start laughing. And the friend that was there with us listening to it, she's got her hand over her mouth, as I remember. And Debbie says, "Yeah, sure. They're going to think it's mine. This is great." Yeah, he's a full-grown adult living down in Pennsylvania. So we had some time to cover, and we got to know. And she essentially got approval from her family. My family didn't give a crap. They gave me approval the first time around, thought it was the greatest thing on the planet. Yeah. Then I found out why. They were trying to create a joke. And second time Debbie met with my family after we were married, she says, "I'm never going back there again." She says, "What do you mean?" I said, "Yeah, they were a little rough." She said, "Rough? You kidding? What they did to you there, they absolutely flat out hate you." I said, "Well, that's not the worst of it. They've done worse before." Told me to come down for dinner at 1 o'clock and then ate dinner at 11, 2 or 3 times in a row. You didn't take the, oh yeah, I took the hint. Didn't bother to go back. And then they started getting nasty when I went back because I wouldn't show up. And that's the way they hate you. I know. But everybody says, work it out with your family. So this time, no. My brother started barking just like him. Just does things right off the cuff. And I looked at him and said, "Who are you talking about?" I said, "It took 1.5 years the first time around, and everybody gave me the blessing." So you don't necessarily want to listen to all your friends and family. If you're a Christian, that gets easier. What do you mean? If both of you are good, solid, practicing Christians, it comes easier. But I know people that have been suckered, and almost all of them have been non-Christian guys suckered by Christian women, or so-called Christian women, that play the game, get them drawn in, and then drop them like a heartbeat and hit them like the hubs of hell. You do what I want or else. A lot. I know so many that one woman told me one time as she was older, old enough to be my mother easily, and she said, "Well, what if you're a Christian girl, you marry a man, and you can turn him?" I said, "What are the percentages of that, Agnes?" She says, "Not very good." I said, "I know, because the Lord says don't do it in the first place. If you've done it and you made the mistake, you are correct. Do not leave. But there's no blessing when you marry someone." She says, "Now, wait a minute." And I said, "No, it's true. The Lord puts the blessing on the family to some extent because of the Christian. But I do believe that blessing is curtailed just because of disobedience." She says, "Well, it does seem to be." I said, "It never works." Perfect example is right across the road. Growing up in Twin Orchards down there, I should say, finishing growing up in Twin Orchards. I went across the street and married a guy she thought was some Mr. Wonderful and then tried to control him. He wasn't a true Christian, but she figured he was manipulatable. Ended up breaking up. Why? She thought she was God. He didn't. You ever see that on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? The one woman says, "Yeah, they broke up." So what do you mean? She thought she was God and he disagreed. They split up on religious grounds. That was an excellent line, especially for the 80s. That was beautiful. So the idea, and everything I'm talking to you about now, I talked with Debbie. It's about the work I did, the tools, the moving, what had gone on with the family. We just talked and spent time together, mowed lawn even together. We were friends that were looking towards marriage, and both of us knew it. We were running out of time. She was my second. I was her first. And that made it more special for me to try and make it better for her, put in even more of an effort. You say, that doesn't sound right. Exactly. It doesn't sound right. It's how I felt. But if you do the job right anyway, it's not making an extra effort. It's doing what should be done in the first place. It's behaving as a husband, communicating, leading husband of sorts. There's only one leader that's ever been in my life, and that's Christ himself. Since I was 7 years old, trying to follow what he wanted. I knew there was an entire Bible that nobody would read to me. Nobody would sing to me. Nobody would do any. I'd go to church and they'd talk about stories and do the demeaning thing. Your mother says you won't listen. Why won't you listen? That's all I heard. Going back to Twin Orchards Baptist, I had hoped the 20 years in between had made a change. For some, no, it did not. It was worse than ever because, well, you're here because you weren't obedient to your mother. My mother was in Wiccan, for crying out loud, playing witchcraft games. I was supposed to obey her manipulation. She made somebody that had severe narcissistic personality disorder, two close people I knew, she made them look like pups, like they were rookies at it. She was like the Larry Bird or Pete Maravich of narcissism. I mean, the best. You know what I mean? I know you probably don't know any of them. I don't know who the big shot is today. So we're talking way out there. You don't go back to your family if you don't have to. That's my main point. Watch out for these people. They're the kind of ones that my mother landed a man when she got pregnant. Once she got him, had an abortion. My father says, I married you for a child. You're having a child. I was hated ever since. He forced me. No, you originally forced him. He was making sure you held the agreement. But not to a narcissist. And you can't be like that. You can't. You have to be friends. You have to be best friends. You have to be the ones that when something happens terrible at home, the rest of the world can die and go to hell if they have to. That woman at home or man at home is more important than anyone else on the planet. And if something goes, the children go with you. If there's a problem with her, then you and the kids are all there. You're all full support. Just like you would be if you were, what? Best friends. The idea of marriage isn't just romanticism. It's not. Sorry, Billy Ray, but, at the start, there has to be that. But it goes a lot deeper and farther beyond that. Anything else that you could. One of those things where you come home and you know that you can open up and just say something. It's also one of those, hey, you left a mess here on the counter. Are you going to clean it up? Well, yes, dear. The message? Yeah, I'll clean it up eventually. You came across with the wrong tone. I'm not going to start an argument over. And then it's your response as a male when something goes wrong with her. You never act like that. You never go at her like that's somebody else that you've just got to. Never. Ever. Doesn't matter how mad you are unless it's actually something that is totally outlandishly egregious. And even then, you hold your tone. You're the leader of this. It doesn't work all the time. No, ask me on my first time around. You don't talk to me like that. I said, what? After you just got through screaming for half an hour, I finally looked at you and told you, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Back off. You're not treating me like a wife. I said, you haven't treated me like a husband for the last week. I said, back off. And that was the last 5+ years of that marriage. Every day she was screaming about something to try and take me down a notch. I wouldn't go down the notch. This is how it's going to be in this household. So finally she left on her terms, she thought. And as it turned out, she put herself behind the 8 ball so far that she had to leave not just the town, not just the county. She ended up leaving the state. Probation officer with delusions of godhood. Those are the times you do step up. And you still keep your civil tone. Because it doesn't work when you come out of control and look just like her out of control continuously. Especially to your children. I made a few of those mistakes. But they weren't total mistakes either. And you need to have that in mind. When you're younger, you're starting out. You get with the idea of, easy there. Counter's dirty. Yes, dear, I'll take care of it. Don't you get sarcastic with me. Stop right there. Why? Because if you're going to mouth off like that, I'm not cleaning the counter up. I'm staying out of your domain. If you're not treating me like a husband, then I'm not cleaning up like a slave. And walk out of the room. You must be in control. But when she dings the car up and you go out ballistic before you hear the whole story, you're a complete imbecile. You're talking like you are to your best friends. What are we going to do with that mess now? Oh, yeah, a little sarcasm here and there, but you're going to talk with her how you're going to straighten it out. While she's bawling her eyes out, just stand there and wait for her to get done crying, pat her on the back. Yeah. And when you're done crying, what are we going to do? Oh, yeah. She makes the mistake. Have her work with the decision, too. It's a friendship now. You're not just partners. Love. The design of marriage is to show the relationship between Christ and the church. That close. Where the husband is representing Jesus Christ who gave himself for all. But you'll notice through his life there was sarcasm, harsh words, some pretty harsh treatment at times for those who were around that were wrecking his family, his life, relationships that were cut off, etc., etc. But he walked the line to show us how we are to be, but also how protective we are to be of our families and to train and to grow them up. The men have a bigger challenge than what we think, but at the same time, the challenge isn't that much bigger than the bride's, except your wife is your partner, 100% all in raising the children and being a family that's a representative of Jesus Christ himself. Because as Christ is to the church, Christ is to the husband, as the husband is to be to the wife. That's a tough example to follow, isn't it? What's that do for your don't bother with a friendship thing, Billy Ray? It goes way beyond that, doesn't it? Now, your basic idea in the beginning, just that little flippant friendship, it's a good way to start and to figure things out. And it doesn't lead to romance unless you say, hey, let's spend a little more time together. What does that go back to? Goes back to part of the speech that Debbie and I had on her back porch that says, hey, let's hang out together and let's see where this leads. No. You'll get me sucked in and I won't be able to get out. I know how this is going. And she says, well, maybe so. But if the Lord called you into my life that way and you're and here we are now, let's just see where it goes. I walked from there, got in my car, and said, oh, crap, I'm dead meat. And the Lord says, yes, you are. Get over it. That's a little different, isn't it? But Billy Ray, the idea of just being friends, you're correct, will not get you to that point of romance. But if you don't start with a friendship level so that she in particular, but both of you can trust each other, your romance has no roots. Nothing to fall back on. Well, it's coming up on 18 minutes. Time for me to go. I think I've blathered enough here. To start out, in a Christian's case, you're going to follow the Lord's lead. And I hate to tell you this. There's an Old Testament character, I can't remember his name now, Haba Huba Hoba something or other, who ended up marrying a harlot that he'd had his eyes on for so long because the Lord ordered him to make a show of the relationship that Israel had with God himself. Interesting, isn't it? And he did everything he could to maintain that relationship. Brought her back from slavery. Brought her out of whoredom. Brought her out of 2-3 times. Continued until finally it was over. But that was a picture of how the Lord was with Israel time and time and time and time again. And then there comes a time where it's just not there anymore. They didn't start out as a friendship, did they? Infatuation and enamorous. But there wasn't any roots there. And that's what the Lord was trying to show to Israel. He can give it all, but if you don't give back and work through the relationship, there's nothing there. Except, unfortunately, in many cases, children. And then they grow up to follow the same example. So, start out. The opening introductions and the conversation. The conversation tells you whether you can have a friendship or not. The friendship gives you an idea of whether you can have a romantic relationship or not. Because there's a lot of women that would love to hang out with guys that aren't that attractive because they won't feel romantically involved to keep the friendship. Guys, figure it out. If she starts complimenting the way you look and dress or something, don't go out of your way to dress up any different than you would normally. That's correct. Don't play the woo game. Except, hey, let's go. You want to go to a tractor pull or whatever? Whatever your interests are. Ask her to get involved. And let it grow deeper from there. Debbie doesn't even like tractor pulls unless she's actually there watching the thing. And we ended up watching horse pulls. That was our kind of commonality. Why? She loves animals. Animals are pulling instead of a tractor. Okay, I can watch. But what do we end up watching more for than anything else? We came to a mutual agreement that the horses' antics, they loved being there. They'd kick the fence to scare people. They'd take their nose and snort at somebody that was talking to somebody else for too long, scare the crap out of them. And then you'd watch the horse doing one of these, laughing their face off. We're standing over there watching this crap. One of them got done with a pull, and a really good pull. Stuck his head up in the air, and he's bobbing like this, trotting along. And the guy, the driver sits there, whack! Hey, stop that! And the horse starts dancing. We love it. But it's because of the common interest. We changed each other's world. I guess that comes to the common ground. So, when we came here and we had agreements and working on the house and what we want to do, there's been some disagreements, some harsh ones now and then. But they've always come to the end of conclusion. And it's not the greatest compliment in the world, but one of them that Debbie sat there and I said, if you want, I'll stay right out of it because I'm getting tired of this. Coming up with an idea that needs to be and you want it some other way. I said, if it's your way, I'm walking right out of it. Done. You do whatever you want. Excuse me. The cold coming up. And she said, no. Your idea is right. She says it. I said, I can stay out of it. She says, no, if nothing else. She didn't say if nothing else, but she says, I need you in all of this to keep me grounded. Not a great compliment, is it? But it's one that's deeper than, I need your love. No. I need you to live, essentially. Or to live a better life. I'm not sure how to translate it, but it was important to her. And it upset her enough that I didn't yell or scream or anything else. I just said, I've had it. I'm not doing this. And she came to an understanding that, oh, okay. Because we talked about it, and I let her know how I felt about it without impugning her. Never impugn your mate. Unless it's in a little humorous sarcasm for something silly that happened. The type of thing you can both share. This is the most important person in your life. Okay? This one. That beautiful woman, I took that picture just last year before she went to see her father, I think it was. That beautiful woman. That's the one that goes beyond friendship. But without friendship, you have nothing to go beyond, do you?